how to bake a cake. Today we're going to make a traditional yellow cake. The ingredients that you'll be using are 2 8-inch round non-stick pans, some cooking spray, a little bit of flour to coat the pans, 2½ cups all-purpose flour, 2½ teaspoons of baking powder, ½ teaspoon of salt, 2/3 cup unsalted butter, 1 3/4 cup white sugar, 1½ teaspoons of vanilla extract, 2 large eggs, and 1 1/4 cup of milk. You're also going to need an electric mixer and 2 different bowls, and of course your oven, which we're going to set right now to 350 degrees. We're going to preheat that while we're mixing our ingredients together. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spray the 8-inch round pans with non-stick spray and slightly sprinkle a little bit of flour in them, just to make sure that when you flip your pans out, when you flip the cake out, when they're completely done, that they won't stick to the inside of the pan and rip. So if you'd like to just take some powder, some flour, and sprinkle that in there. Once you've put the oil on, you can shake it around. Try and get it coated as well as you can. It doesn't need to be perfect, just so long as you have at least some oil and flour throughout both pans, just so that the cake mixture doesn't stick to them. And then we're going to take our smaller bowl. We can set these aside. We're going to use our smaller mixing bowl, and we're going to add some of the dry ingredients to that. That's going to consist of our 2½ cups all-purpose flour, the 2½ teaspoons of baking powder, and the ½ teaspoon of salt. We're just going to lightly mix those together, and we're going to set that aside. Next, in the larger bowl, we're going to put the 2/3 cups unsalted butter in there. Some people prefer to heat these up in the microwave a little bit just to make them easier to mix. Ours are at room temperature right now, so they're going to be a lot easier to beat. If they're straight out of the fridge, I would heat them up a little bit just so that when you go to mix them, it doesn't give you a lot of trouble. Just give these a quick mix. And to that, we're going to add the 1 3/4 cup of white sugar. And also, we are going to add 1 1/2 teaspoons of our vanilla extract. We've got, there's 1 1/2. Once you've got this mixed together, you're going to blend it again. You can just blend it on a low speed. It doesn't need to be thoroughly mixed because we're going to continue adding more ingredients as we go. It's going to get a little bit crumbly if you can see the consistency here, and that's fine because these are just most of our dry ingredients. We're going to add some more eggs and milk to it later, so we'll get a little bit more of a batter-like consistency later. So now that we've got these mixed together, we're going to stir in both of the eggs one at a time. Be careful when putting them in, you don't get any shells in there. There's both of our eggs. We're going to mix this again. And now what we're going to do simultaneously is we're going to add a little bit of dry mixture that we put aside before with a little bit of milk, and just alternate each time and just continue mixing a little bit instead of just putting it all in at once. That way we get a really nice batter and we don't get any dry spots in there. So there's about half of our dry mixture, and we'll put in about half of the milk. We'll go ahead and blend this again. If for some reason, if you get a lot of the dry ingredients on the side of the bowl, you can take a spatula and scrape them off the sides just to make sure it gets all mixed in. If you don't have a hand mixer at home, you can mix it with a spoon or fork. Just keep in mind that you're going to need to spend a lot more time mixing the ingredients together. So here's the rest of our dry ingredients. And we'll throw in the rest of our milk. We'll give this another mix. There are also different types of extracts out there. There's almond extract, lemon extract, things like that. So if you prefer to use that instead of vanilla, you can go ahead and add that to your cake as well and try a couple different options. I'm going to use the spatula and scrape off the sides a little bit just to make sure we get everything that we've added mixed in thoroughly. And then I'm just going to give it another mix to make sure everything gets good and mixed in there. You don't want any surprises in your cake. Usually at the end when I'm mixing something, I like to put it on a higher speed just to give it one final mix and make sure that we've got everything completely put together. It should be a pretty thick consistency. We'll bring back our 8-inch round cake pans over here. And what these are best for is if you're gonna plan on doing a cake that has layers, if you're gonna put frosting in the middle of one and add the other cake on top of it, these pans work great. If you're gonna be making a traditional square cake, you can just add this whole mixture into one, usually 9 by 13-inch rectangle pan. We're going to be doing a layered cake, so we're going to be using both of the pans. You can use your spatula and just scrape some of the mixture into one. You want to make sure and get it somewhat even between the two pans. That way you don't have one cake thicker than the other. And when you mix, when you put all these in here, you can even them out after that and make sure that you don't have more than one than the other. Here we go. Once you've got them in the pans, they will even out when you're baking them in the oven once they get a little warm, but you can just kind of smooth them out right here. They don't need to be perfect because the oven will take care of that for you. But it's best just to make sure the pan's coated. There we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to put both of the cake pans in the oven at the same time. They're going to bake for about 30 to 35 minutes on 350 degrees. And you want to check them at around 30 minutes at the earlier time. And the way that you can do that, we'll place them both on the top rack. There we go. The way that you can check your cake at 30 minutes is you can simply take a toothpick and stick it right in the center of the cake, and if it comes out completely clean, then you know that your cake is done. If it still has a little bit of the cake batter on it, then you want to put it in for maybe 2 or 3 more minutes and just continue checking it as you go. When you're done with that, you can remove them from the oven and place them on the cooling racks for about 10 to 15 minutes. If you try and ice your cake when the cakes are still warm, everything's going to end up a gooey mess. So if you'd like more information on how to ice a cake or make icing, please refer to the other Hot Girl How To videos. Enjoy!